I recently had this very interesting observation on how we form new habits, and if you've been trying to introduce something new into your day-to-day routine, then the contents of this video may come in handy. Alright, so everything that I will share with you is through the lens of behavioral psychology, and more particularly what is known as operant conditioning, which states that all behavior is learned, all habits are learned, and there are 4 different scenarios which work for establishing a particular habit or against it. So what we're going to do is take a look at each and every one of them, and then I'd like to give you a perspective on how all of them take part in habit formation, what you can do to influence the whole process. So whatever you're trying to establish as a habit has a better chance of staying for the better. Alright, so here are the 4 forms of learning scenarios or forms of conditioning. First is what is known as positive reinforcement, meaning that something pleasant happens if you behave in a particular way or if you do something. Meaning that if you do something that is considered good, someone may tell you good job or well done, or in the end of the month you get your paycheck. This is basically the positive thing that happens because you've been doing, in this case, your job. And if you keep on doing your job, your paycheck will still keep on coming. This is positive reinforcement. And together with that, we have what is known as negative reinforcement, meaning that something unpleasant is removed because you behave a particular way or do something. For example, you want to do the dishes because you want your spouse or your mom to stop nagging at you. And with time, doing the dishes becomes a habit because you want to avoid that unpleasant thing. Then you have positive punishment, meaning that if you do something, you get punished for it. For example, if you put your hand on a hot stove, you get punished for that by the heat. And so you avoid doing it in the future, not to get punished. And finally, we have negative punishment, meaning that something that you like will be taken away because you acted a particular way. So for example, you won't be getting a bonus at the end of the year because your work wasn't satisfactory, or your PlayStation will be taken away because you didn't do your homework. And so here's where it gets interesting. All these forms of conditioning, all 4 of them take part in the process of forming a habit, whether we realize that or not. And the problem comes from the fact that the ones that punish our new behavior outweigh the ones that are trying to reinforce it. So let me give you an example. So let's say that you're trying to learn a language. How are these 4 forms of conditioning going to manifest themselves in that process? Let's start with positive reinforcement again. And we're not going to count scoring grades as a form of reward for the sake of argument. Let's say that you're learning the language because you want to. Well, how is reward going to manifest itself in this case? Well, people may smile when you're talking the target language, or you're being able to express yourself and they're saying that you're good at whatever it is that you're doing. These are rewards which are again a form of positive reinforcement. Now, negative reinforcement also happens, but in a very interesting way. As you're learning, you're no longer not understanding certain things, or as you're learning, you're not understanding less. So for example, if you have 2 natives or people talking the target language and you're frustrated because you don't understand it at all at first, as you learn more, you start understanding more and more, and there's less that is not understood. And this in itself is a form of negative reinforcement. Now, how does punishment manifest itself in that whole process? Well, let's say that you're trying to establish a half-an-hour routine learning your new language. Well, this will interfere with everything else that you've been doing up until this point. You may be late for a meeting or fail to attend to something else related to your house duties, and so you end up having trouble at work or having an argument at home with your family, which in this case is what? A form of punishment for doing this other new thing. And then you also have negative punishment, which happens because you have less time to do other things that you like. Playing games, going out with friends, all because you're trying to fit this one new thing into your schedule. And to top it all off, and this is probably the biggest problem here, all reinforcement, all positive experiences related to our new habit, we don't get to experience them now, but later down the road when we actually make some substantial progress. On the contrary, all the punishment we get to experience now. And so our mind thinks again, I might as well not put up with this. And now the question that arises is, if that's the case, well, what is it that we can do to bring as much reinforcement in the here and now while minimizing all possible punishment that we may experience? The answer that I came up with is very simple, and it's to make things easy. And I mean a couple of things by that. Let's stick to our language learning example here. The first thing that we have to take care of, whatever activity we decide to pick in order to initiate that habit, it has to be easy to engage into, meaning both physically and mentally. In this case, this may be very easy. I can just flip out my phone, install a language learning app, and start learning words. Now, is this the best way to learn the language? This is not important right now, and this is related to this mental taxation. We don't want any unnecessary decision making as to getting the right books, getting the right lessons. We're talking about establishing the habit, and this is what really counts. Easy to engage, as little physical and mental friction as possible to get started doing the thing. Next is ease of consistency, meaning how easy it is to stay consistent with the given new activity. And this is related to the time that we dedicate each and every day for the given activity again. And here's the thing, this is now connected to the conditioning that we talked about, and more particularly the forms of punishment that we may experience. When something doesn't take that much time, it's easier to integrate into our already existing schedule. So we're able to attend to our duties, so we don't get punished for not performing them. And also there's more time for us to attend to other things that we like, meaning that in doing so, we reduce both the possibility of positive punishment, but also the negative one. And then we have reinforcement, which is connected to the next easy thing, which is making sure that whatever it is that we're doing, it's easy to complete. And this implies that we have to have a goal, meaning spending these 5 to 20 minutes each and every day, or learning a number of words each and every day. The important thing to understand here is that completion is related to the release of dopamine in the body, and dopamine is reward incarnate. And this release is not something that happens whenever we achieve something big, but each and every time we have a small win. In this case, dopamine serves as a facilitator, telling us that whatever it is we are doing, it's in the right direction. And this comes in the form of reward and reinforcement. And this again is why we want to make things easy to complete. And of course, with time, whatever our activity is, it could evolve into a number of different activities. We can make it more complex, infinitely more interesting, proper, but the important thing is that we establish the precedence of it into our life. And even more important than that, the results from our actions eventually will start to show up as rewards themselves. We learn the language, we develop the necessary skills, we're able to show it off, we reap the fruits of our endeavors. At any rate, I hope that this observation of mine gives you some insight maybe on how to approach learning new things, doing new things, bend it, shape it, tweak it so it fits your needs. And as always, keep it bright, and I'll see you all next time.